So growth is uncomfortable. As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking and reflecting about my values, and one of them specifically being service. And with service, God has entrusted us with the planting of the seeds and the watering of the seeds, but ultimately the outcomes belong to Him, because He ultimately controls how everything works out in the grand scheme of things. And for me, letting go and letting God, I think I can do that. But there's an aspect of service in terms of multiplying talents and being responsible and a good steward that's a little bit more complicated. It's more complicated because when I set out to do this, I never really thought about what it would take, I guess, to make things happen, right? And what a good steward is, and how planting and watering the seeds would look like. But what it's requiring me to learn is more about things that I didn't think would be part of the calling. Things like metrics and reach metrics, and just the kind of administrative things that come along with being a good steward. And and those are the circumstances to a certain extent, right? The circumstances are that in order to be a good steward, you need to learn things that you wouldn't normally learn, and those things will stretch you. But what I've come to learn in life, at least from the circumstances of life, is that the stretching and the growth is seldom comfortable, and that is actually one of the signs that you are growing. As you're for lack of a better term, suffering or going through pain, being able to channel that into a growth opportunity is actually what growth looks like. And when we talk about transcending our circumstances and focusing on joy, it kind of draws a parallel to this, in that these are our circumstances, but we need to transcend them to be able to stretch and to grow and to be good stewards of what we've been entrusted with, right? So I was just reflecting on that, and it's what I'm feeling is a little bit of stress, a little bit of anxiety, and not because I think I'll fail, but because I want to be a good steward and representative of the MyFight community. I want to be able to represent us well. I want to be able to drive change in the world that's meaningful, and that's a little bit of the pressure that I feel in trying to achieve those goals and results. But upon more reflection and prayer, it's less about me achieving those results and more about me planting the seeds as well as watering the plants, and ultimately letting go and letting God take over when it comes to the outcomes. So I really wanted to share that with everybody, just to give everybody a peek at what I'm going through at the moment. It's not easy, obviously, with the disease and all of the treatments. So ask for your patience, and as I might release daily vlogs later, or reflections may come at a less frequent clip, but ultimately I still have to conserve my energy to fight the good fight, to beat this cancer, which is definitely what I'm fully committed to. But at the same time, I will do my best to represent the community and to continue to stretch and grow, to be able to make a change in this world, or make a difference in this world. And I've gotten tons of feedback from the community about the change that we're able to drive in the world at the numbers that we're at now, and that at this point it's even based on a numbers game, it's unlikely that we wouldn't have driven some type of positive change in the world, which me being a numbers guy, I am greatly encouraged by that. The world is going to be benefiting from the story of what I'm going through, as well as how we're transcending the day-to-day and able to choose joy on a regular basis. So, and I thank you for all of that. I'm still fighting hard every day to choose joy, and thank you very much for all the comments and words of encouragement. And for all of the new people joining, thank you for joining. Thank you for engaging with the story. Very happy that you're here. And going forward, I'll just try to do my best to continue on the journey. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.